The New York Times is reporting tonight that Hillary Clinton told the FBI that former Secretary of State Colin Powell had advised her to use a personal email account. The Times reports that the FBI notes of their interview with Secretary Clinton, which were handed over to Congress on Tuesday, reveal that she told the FBI about former Secretary of State Powell's advice. And the Times notes that a new book to be published next month by Joe Conason tells of a dinner party hosted by former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright with other former Secretaries of State at her home in Washington who were there to give advice to incoming Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Colin Powell was there, along with Henry Kissinger and Condoleezza Rice. In his book, Joe Conason says Powell told her to use her own email as he had done, except for classified communications, which he had sent and received via a State Department computer. Joe Conason's book says this only confirmed a decision that Secretary Clinton had made months earlier to use personal email. Until this story broke tonight, the big Clinton news of the day came earlier this evening when the Clinton Foundation announced it would no longer accept foreign or corporate contributions if Hillary Clinton is elected president. Joining us now by phone is New York Times national political reporter Amy Chozick, who broke the story tonight about the FBI's interview with Secretary Clinton. Amy, thank you very much for joining us with this breaking news. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, when the word came that Congress was getting the FBI notes this week, the clock started ticking on when the first leak would come. I'm not going to ask you where it came from, but the presumption is obviously going to be that this is a congressional leak of what's in the FBI notes. What more do we know about what Hillary Clinton had to say to the FBI about her email?
Well, I think we're going to be learning that, and obviously the Clinton campaign is concerned about congressional Republicans or strategically leaking things that could potentially damage her candidacy, and has pushed to release everything. So we'll see if that happens. But until then, you're right. It could be a drip, drip, drip of those of us in the media hearing about different parts of this 3.5-hour conversation that happened over July 4th weekend.
Well, there are also Democratic members of the committee who might have an incentive to drip some drips of it, and this one seems to be beneficial to Hillary Clinton. It seems to be there's Colin Powell saying you should do it this way.
Yes, it's interesting. You know, Hillary Clinton and her campaign have said from the get-go, as you know, previous secretaries of state have done this. They've pointed to Colin Powell, but they haven't so directly made the link that he told her to do it. And I think that that's something that they would probably have mixed emotions about, because you don't want to, and she doesn't want to look like she's casting blame on a very well-admired, popular former diplomat. But at the same time, we had known from the IG report and other developments in the email scandal that Colin Powell had used a private address as well.
But there are some huge differences between Colin Powell's time there and Secretary Clinton's time there. The systems had changed and been upgraded significantly. When Colin Powell was there, their computers weren't connected to the internet. Apparently, you couldn't send email outside of the State Department. That wasn't the case by the time Hillary Clinton got there. And she was operating under a new rule imposed by the Obama administration that everyone was supposed to use their government email.
Absolutely. Significant difference between their two practices. I mean, for one, I just think technology and email had evolved dramatically. The State Department, which was pretty technologically behind when Colin Powell came. But also, you know, she didn't just have a private email. She had a private server set up by outside contractors in her house in Chappaqua, which, you know, has drawn intense scrutiny about whether it was secure. And so that was a major difference. And I mean, you mentioned the new rules, and the State Department Inspector General report that came out this spring pointed out that by the time Secretary Clinton set up her personal server, quote, significant security risks were posed by the practice. So it is quite different from Colin Powell's practice.
Amy Chozick, thank you very much for joining us with this breaking news tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We're joined now by E.J. Dionne, columnist for the Washington Post and an MSNBC political analyst. E.J., I want to go to the other big story of the night prior to this, which was the Clinton Foundation announcing it would no longer take foreign or corporate contributions if Hillary Clinton is elected president. That comes in the same week that the Boston Globe, which has endorsed Hillary Clinton in the primaries, will surely endorse Hillary Clinton again in the general election. I don't think the Globe's endorsed a Republican in my lifetime for president, not sure. But friend of the Clinton campaign, Boston Globe editorial board said the Clinton Foundation should be shut down. This form of being able to contribute to the family of an office holder should be stopped.
Yeah, well, I think that too. Actually, I have my own notion of this. I think that what they should do is reconstitute it as what I would call the Eisenhower-Kennedy Foundation, two great presidents of their youth who are very popular and well-loved. Bring in people like David and Susan Eisenhower or Carolyn Kennedy, and essentially let the work of the foundation go on. The Clintons say this foundation does a lot of good work, and there is evidence that it does. It really does do good work around the world. But to have any kind of entity like this while Clinton is president just invites more and more stories. As John McLaughlin, the late John McLaughlin, would say, you can know with metaphysical certitude that people will be looking for Clinton Foundation stories throughout the Clinton presidency. So what they did today is a good step forward. I hope it's an indication that they understand that over the long run, this just poses a problem for them that they don't need.
Well, and if the idea is we should not take foreign contributions or corporate contributions if Hillary Clinton is president, why would it have been a good idea to do that when she was Secretary of State?
Well, I think Reince Priebus issued a statement to that effect. You know, it's, I think that you have a situation here that is unprecedented. You have a former president of the United States, and presidents do have these foundations. They do a lot of good in the world. But you have not had a situation where a member of the family, in this case, the wife of the former president, was both Secretary of State and running for president. And I understand that they might say, well, we are being held to a different standard than others, and there's some fairness to that. But it doesn't matter. You will be held to that standard whether you like it or not, because you are in a situation that we've just never had to live with before. And so I think they're going to have to figure out more steps to take about this.
Yeah, and EJ, we've been around long enough to know that the standards always change. They evolve. I mean, there was a time when you could get away with any kind of extramarital behavior you wanted to, and then the standards changed, and the media's standards about dealing with that changed. These things change all the time. I mean, I can understand how they would have innocently found themselves in this situation because, as you say, totally unprecedented. Everything about it is unprecedented. We're going to have to leave it there for tonight. E.J. Dionne, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to join you. Thanks.
Up next.